Today we're comparing the Sony A6600 with the Fuji XT-4. Now this is going to be a bit of a battle between Sony and Fuji's flagship APS-C camera lineup, so let's just jump right into it. So I really want to know what the differences are, how similar these two cameras are, and how well the XT-4 will compete against the Sony A6600. And that's because before making this video, I actually thought that the Sony A6600 is the best APS-C camera you can get on the market right now. But recently shooting with the Fuji, my opinion might have changed. And I really want to help you guys out if you're just not sure to get the XT-4 or the Sony A6600, or whether you're on the fence to buy a Sony camera or a Fuji camera. I shot these two cameras side by side with my new friend Amanda and with Carlo on BTS, so I'll be rolling some photo and video examples as we talk about these two cameras. Let's roll. The homeboy. The OG.
So was that all? That was all on the Fuji?
That was all on Fuji, yeah.
Alright, sweet.
Yeah, I love that. So before the shoot, I literally had no time with the XT-4. I basically just picked it up and did a couple of settings tweaks. As with the Sony A6600, I've been using this camera for well over 1 year now, and I've got my settings dialed. I shot these two cameras on the 35mm full frame equivalent, with the Fuji having a 23mm f2 from Fuji lens, and the Sony A6600 had my favorite lens for the Sony system on a budget, that being the Samyang 24mm f1.8. So I'm really interested to seeing the autofocus differences. I really want to test out the Fuji 10-bit 4K 60, that's pretty wild, coming out of an APS-C camera, and I want to see the difference of that video system versus the A6600, which only has 8-bit and 1080p at 60 frames per second. And I'm super excited to see the 18 different film emulations. I actually only just shot on the one, just because I wanted to get consistent photos. Gonna just have a seat on this. So I'll just hold that position and look that way.
Oh, yeah.
And then I'll swing around. Do like a bit of a parallax.
Oh, yeah.
So when you're ready. Yeah, let's get a couple of shots while this light's good. I love the shutter on this. Before we get into the rest of my thoughts and findings between these two cameras, if you guys are liking this video, make sure you hit that like button. It really helps me out and my channel. And if you're actually new here, maybe consider subscribing to see more future content like this. Back to the video. Let's get into one of the main concerns that I had with the Fuji camera, and that being the autofocus. They both have face and eye autofocus and tracking as well, which is really, really helpful. And when I was using the two cameras, I found that the A6600 could keep up a little bit better for photo and for video. And reviewing the footage and photos, I did notice that the Fuji missed a couple of times, but it was pretty consistent. So quick pause, I actually made a mistake while recording this video while I was in Canada. We're now in Hawaii. And I just want to talk to you guys about the JPEG film emulation. I really like the look of it. I edited most of the photos with that film emulation. But also I really enjoyed the raw files. The raw files were very similar to the Sony files, but I used my presets both on the Sony and the Fuji files, and they both worked out really well. They both edited very nicely, so not a major difference. It's just that autofocus. I can see this film simulation being really helpful for, say, you guys who don't really want to edit a whole lot, but they want to take some banger photos, and it's kind of like having a film camera in your bag without having to develop film. In terms of sensor difference, the Fuji actually has more megapixel at 26 megapixels, but that doesn't necessarily mean it is better. Now the Sony has the 24 megapixel CMOS sensor, and that sensor's been around for quite a while. It's been in multiple cameras and they've really refined that sensor. The main difference that I found for these two cameras is the video capability. Now the Fuji can not only just shoot 4K 60, it can shoot 1080p at 120 and also at 240, which is pretty wild. While the Sony A6600 can only do 1080p at 120 frames per second, it has no 4K 60, it's at 1080. And again, the Fuji is beating the Sony A6600, having that 10-bit 422 log profile. I was very surprised about the Fuji. I found it a huge pleasure to hold. It felt really nice in the hand. It's a little bit longer than the Sony cameras. The screen is bigger, the screen flips out. It's aesthetically pleasing with the top dials and the whole film look of the camera. And I actually really enjoyed shooting on this camera. What I really love about my Sony A6600 is the autofocus. It just works. It's like a camera that you can just put it on wide autofocus with one person in the frame and it's just gonna work basically 100% of the time. It's a really good autofocus system for both photo and video. But the A6600 is no perfect camera by any means. It definitely has its flaws. And one of them being is the tilt screen. I think this is a huge debate on YouTube and through creatives. Every camera should have a flip out screen, period. Debate me in the comments. I also do not like how it's only 8-bit. I love the look of my Sony A7 IV with the S-Log free and using phantom LUTs for the conversion. Now there's only two real things I didn't like about the XT-4, and one of them being the autofocus. It's actually not a massive problem, but it's just not as good as the A6600. And finally is actually the top dials. I think they're really aesthetically pleasing, but pointless. Basically pointless. So which camera is better? Well, it really depends on who it's for. I actually really love shooting on the XT-4 and I want one. I think it's a really cool camera. I think it's great for, say, my girlfriend Maria, who's really learning photography and just wants to go out and take photos and doesn't really want to edit that much, and you can achieve that with that camera. But the Sony A6600 with the Sony autofocus system is basically the standard now, but I would consider switching. So if you guys like this video, make sure you hit that like button. If you've already hit it, just hit it again. And subscribe, because there's going to be plenty more content like this and maybe some more Fuji content. I might buy one. I'll see you later.